Hi, I'm Sumit Bose. Welcome to the Net Hero podcast. If you've not listened, where have you been? Come on, get involved. We talk about all things energy, sustainability, and of course, net zero. We're here to talk about business and what it can do to make the planet better. We're here to talk about science. We're here to talk about you. So if you'd like to be involved, then do drop us a line. Listen in, tell your friends, tell your business partners, subscribe, and for all your news around net zero, follow us on futurenetzero.com. Now, on to this week's episode. Hello, welcome to the Net Hero podcast. I'm Sumit Bose. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for getting involved. We want more of you listening. We want more of you downloading. And of course, we want you to take part. Now, one of the things we've been looking at over the last, probably last year or so, is the whole idea of natural capital. Now, you may have heard this phrase. What is natural capital? It's using the planet's resources. And one of the things that we can do to help us in our net zero journey is try and balance out the destructive behavior we've done. One of the major ways we can do that is obviously with trees. And people know all about the term deforestation, where we go in and we chop down trees. Well, there's also a term that's growing in popularity, and there are more businesses doing it, called reforestation. And today I'm going to talk to a company that's doing that. So I'm delighted to say I'm joined on the podcast today by Adrien Paget. I hope I got that right, Adrien, from Morfo. Is that right?
Yes, exactly.
What does Morfo mean? More metamorphosis? Or more forest?
Nice try. No, actually, Morfo is a butterfly from French Guiana with like blue hails, very specific.
Uh-huh.
And if you switch, usually it's written like PHO.
Right.
If you switch with an F, it also does Morforest. So,
yes.
And if you go on our website, it's like morfo.rest. So basic stuff.
Now, let's just start a little bit about you. So you're not a botanist. You're not a kind of from an agriculture. You're a business person, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Business person.
So, and you started with a business in sort of sustainable packaging. You're saying before we started on it. Just before we talk about what Morfo does, where did this interest in sustainability come from in the first place?
I think it's very simple. I remember I was a student at that time, and I was just okay. I'm gonna have to work at some point, you know.
We all have to, unfortunately.
Exactly. 10 to 12 hours per day during most of my time working, and I'm not gonna do something in which I cannot believe. And I was like, okay, sustainability, it's very, very broad, but in this I can maybe do something. So this is why I just started and say I'm gonna dedicate my work to try to do something better.
Have you come from that sort of family background, or what was the influence, or you just interested in sort of the environment as a kid?
I don't know, because I never did my own psychoanalysis, but
you get that on this podcast as well. It's thrown in. Tell me more.
I'm surprised. I wasn't prepared, but but I think two things. I come from the countryside,
right?
So when you live in the countryside, you are like closer to nature, so you really see the impact and the evolution of it. And I saw it with my own eyes, you know. I saw, for instance, insects disappear. I mean, something that moves you. And I think all of my family is doctors. Right. So I think also it's a way of thinking that is far from business in the end, you know.
Yeah, more altruistic.
It depends from the country, but in France, it's far from business.
Yeah, of course. Now, you are French, and obviously, France has been trying to do a variety of things, slightly different to what we're doing in the UK. When you through the idea of creating this company, did you find lots of interest in it? Did you find resistance? What was the kind of idea when you said, you know what, I'm going to start a company that does some sort of reforestation?
Actually, I think, and I think my business partner will completely agree with me, that France is a very good environment right now to create a company, a deep tech company, because we are a deep tech company in the end, and a very innovative company, because you have like a state that is really pushing it. You have an environment of people that are open to it. You have VC funds that are also looking for that kind of new project. So even though the project is a bit crazy and was and
We're
is
going to
still
explore that. Yes, absolutely.
super crazy, everyone like believe in it, and we have a very good environment. So I think no, it's a good point for France.
It's interesting because obviously the UK government has set its target, same as France has set its target, but there has been issues around kind of the direction we're going here, and also there's been issues about getting funding. But you say you found the business market when you said I'm going to do a green project, a green company. There was an open mind in France. Was there? There was an encouragement for you guys.
I think completely. Also we had a good timing because we had a timing in which like everyone was like, okay, no, we need green business, and we were one of the like not one of the first because there's super big business, green business before us, but maybe like still not that many. So everyone was looking at it, and I think also that like the VC fund crisis also helped
Yeah.
a little bit on this because you go from like everyone looking at tech and SaaS business, and now you are like, oh no, we need to find a climate business. What is a climate business, you know? So I think we have a good environment for this, and France is pushing a lot for this. So I mean, I don't know for every country, but at least here it's very favorable.
So let's explain what Morfo does. So the idea, if I've got this right, is that you're offering a reforestation type of service. Can you explain why you're doing it, first of all, and also where you're doing it? Because you're not doing it in France, are you?
So we are still doing it in France, but in French Guiana. So it's very specific.
Okay.
But technically speaking, it's France.
Technically speaking, it's France. Okay, fair enough.
But in fact, so just to quickly say why. So when we started the business, it was one of my business partners who like saw the need. We realized that okay, we have a very important need for restoration and reforestation all over the world. And we have like up to 1.9 billion of hectares that are available for restoration. And according to the scientists and the UN, like reforestation could be one big part of the solution in order to fight climate change and to mitigate its effects. But we were like, okay, so now 99% of all the restoration projects are planting by hand with seedlings, with a crucial lack of biodiversity when it's not invasive species.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
No monitoring, no transparency. So we were like, we cannot scale this. We don't have transparency. And the cost is not well spread during all the phases of the project because like most of the budget is focused on the planting part, which is like in terms of timing, just a tiny part of the project. So we were like, okay, we have this need that is big like that, but we have no tool to do it and no innovation. So you see that there is a huge problem. So this is why we decided to launch our solution to really allow to increase the volume of knowledge, scientific knowledge about restoration, about plants, about trees, to be able to restore them. Because if you don't know trees, how can you plant them? If you don't know plants, how can you plant them? And it's very difficult when you talk about biodiversity, because there's a lot of interactions that we don't really understand yet.
Of course.
The second aspect is that we need tools to get to the scale. So this is why we brought the idea of drones, the idea of seed encapsulations to really increase the scale, but also to increase the biodiversity. Because with that kind of tool, you don't only need to plant trees. You can plant every plant that is necessary to restore an ecosystem. So you have a way more holistic approach because you change the tools that you use and the economic value of what you are planting.
That's the reason you're on the podcast. I just thought this was bonkers. So let's get to the crux of what's going on here for the listeners. You're using drones, flying over and dropping seeds like little bombs, little green bombs, over land that was once either forested or arable land. Explain what you're doing and how do the drones do it? Because my question is, who's flying them? B, around the trees, and how do you release them?
So basically, we have like 4 steps in the way we are doing our restoration project. So we have an area that has been degraded. We only do reforestation. So it was a forest before or an ecosystem before.
Cool. So it's not agricultural land. It's always forest that was taken down. Yeah,
exactly. It can be very highly degraded lands, agricultural lands that are not used anymore, that were forest before, that we restore. So could be, but if it's arable land, we don't touch because we don't want to go into competitions with some lands that could like feed people, because this would be a catastrophe. So the idea is that first thing, we completely analyze and scan the area that we need to restore. So there we use drone imagery, drone data, but also on-site data. The idea is to understand the area, to segment, because from 1 square meter to the other square meter, you're not going to find the same conditions. Okay, I'm not going to go too much into details, but you're not going to find the same condition.
Right.
So you cannot plant exactly the same mix and the same density.
Right.
From this and this analysis, we are developing planting patterns that are very accurate, because we cross the data on site with a catalog of species, of native species that we analyze. So we have laboratories, actually. I am in my laboratory right now, and we have laboratory in which we are studying the species, and we have a lot of scientific partners in France, but also in Brazil, that are helping us to better understand the ecosystem and the species. Basically, if you want an example, I take like one plant. I need to understand if this plant is going to grow, if the soil is compacted, highly compacted, not compacted, if the soil is polluted, if it's poor, not poor, if we put this bacteria, this mushroom, this fungi, etc., etc. So we develop data, we cross the data with on-site data, we create planting patterns that are accurate. The idea is to say, okay, we want to plant 80 species, but how are you going to plant them? Okay, you need to reproduce what nature is making, but by the analysis.
Wow.
When we have this, we plant with the drones. So here we come with the drones phase. So we encapsulate the seeds.
Right.
So we treat the seeds, we encapsulate them. So we have developed some big machines that we are capable of deploying everywhere we need, because we work in very remote area. Usually.
I was going to say.
Not always, but often. And so we encapsulate, so it's like industrial, because we are doing thousands and thousands of capsules in just a few hours, few days. And after this, we have our drones that we are putting the capsules in the drones, and the drones are automatically flying according to the planting pattern that we have created to plant in the area that we need to restore.
So do the drones drop them, or do they actually have something that pushes the seeds into the ground?
No, so they drop them. Because the reason is because, like, in most of the case, you don't because you have the capsules, it makes the connections with the ground, so you don't necessarily use to plant it.
Right.
And the other aspect is because you cannot control. It's very difficult to control like the level of compaction of the soil and the height at which you're gonna drop. So the effect that it's gonna have on the seed. So if you just shoot, it can destroy the seed and can destroy the seedlings.
Understood. Some people would say, well, look, that's great. I love the science. You analyze, you go and say, right, this plant needs this much distance or whatever, and we're going to plant them. All of that I get. The criticism I think I would find is that you're dropping them, right?
Yeah.
But you must have a lot of wastage for a start. Also, animals must pick them up and eat them. And what about, the more traditional way, which is people take seeds, they plant them, and then that they're covered and treated. How do you ensure that I don't know what your rate of kind of, expediency of growth is, because for every kind of 10 seeds you drop, how many do you get?
Yeah, it's a very, very good question. So there's many answers in what you say, but one first thing is that the capsules we have created is made to protect the seeds and the seedlings during the first stage of growth.
Right.
So you talked about the animals, but this capsule is made to protect from the animals or from the insect. It's also made to give nutrients and water resources during the first stage of growth. And we have already triggered the germination of the seeds that are in the capsule. So the idea is to say, okay, we control this process. Of course, there is some waste. Of course, there is some waste, because I cannot say, and no one will say that a restoration project will work 100% because we are talking about nature. But the idea, of course, seeds is the most important thing when you are talking about a restoration project. So you don't want to waste seeds. It's crucial not to waste seeds.
Absolutely.
So very important, and very important for the scale. Nowadays, like with our capsules, to give you an idea, in controlled situation, we have up to 80% of germination rates, which is very, very high.
Yeah, that is very high. Yeah. And in terms of the ones that, the capsule, what's it made of? I assume it's some sort of biodegradable material, is it?
It's fully biodegradable materials, because it's going to be spread, in the land. So you need something that is very, highly natural. The combination can you have some variations according to the project on which we have and the conditions that we have. Because if you plant in, for instance, in the Amazonian forest where you have like a very high level of water, of resources, you're not going to need exactly the same composition as if you are working, for instance, in Caatinga, that is a sort of savanna in Brazil, where you have like conditions or water resources that are a little bit different, but this is really the idea. And to answer the last part, like if you compare to other methodologies, the idea of what we do is not to say, okay, we want to replace everything that has been done so far. The idea is to say, okay, we like the level of restoration in the world is like 1, we have to go up to 10. Who's going to do the 9,
So let's talk about some of the advantage then. And thanks for explaining the bits that I thought would be kind of detrimental to it. You can, I assume, cover much bigger distances and areas with a drone than you can by hand. You can go, as you say, to places that are less accessible. But what about the monitoring of this? Or do you just leave it to nature? Like it's just like birds dropping seeds after you're just going, let's just go cover the area and just see what nature does.
Thanks. I was going to talk about it. That's perfect. So yes, in fact, after we have planted, so first thing about the planting, we are not necessarily planting in one time. We can plant in multiple times to reproduce what will do nature with what we call ecological succession. But because trees are not all coming in the first row.
Of course, yes. Yeah.
So we can do this because we decrease the operational cost. So for the same budget, we are able to do better. And this is very good for biodiversity. And the last thing that is very important is monitoring, because the idea is to say, okay, I have analyzed, I have planted many times, but if I don't monitor, how I'm going to be able to show what I have done, and how I'm going to be able to understand what I have done. Because I was saying this just before, like no project can be 100% successful. This is not true. So you need to understand, okay, why this is working, this is not working, basic basis of feedback, but feedback with nature and reforestation is more challenging than everything, And so this is the idea. So we are monitoring using like combining drone data, drone imagery, some satellite imagery, and on-site data to be able to monitor 3 main things: biomass and rate of success, etc., biodiversity, and including invasive species, etc., and of course carbon stocks. And the idea is to say, okay, why it's working, why it's not working, and all this we are displaying it in an online dashboard. So basically, when our clients get this online dashboard, where they are able to follow since the very beginning of the analysis up to the plantation to the monitoring. And we bring a lot of science in it. For instance, I'm going to just give you a short example. We are developing predictive model to be able to analyze according to different scenarios of climate change, what's going to be the evolution of the trees repartition, of some species repartitions on lands, with the different scenarios. So you see that some species, like the size of their the area where they are is like getting like super small. Some others they are expanding, and the idea is to say, okay, we are not only gonna plant something that's gonna work today, a native ecosystem that's gonna work today, but a native ecosystem that in 1 century is still gonna be here, because the forest is not about 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. It's about like centuries.
I mean, the whole kind of bringing the science into it is really interesting. When you started this, which I don't think is that long ago, is it? How long ago did you start this?
A little bit less than 3 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. So I think people would be saying, right, forests take a minimum of 5 to 10 years to get to some sort of level. So in 3 years, and I don't need specific numbers, but can you see what you're doing is making a difference? And can you see that it's a bit more efficient than the old-fashioned way, or is it the same?
No, that's super. It's a very good thing, because in fact, when we created the company, we were like, we are in business timing and we are working on nature. This is gonna be
business timing is 3 to 5 years, and that's it. Forests are 20.
It's gonna be super tricky, but that's a good challenge. That's a very good challenge. Actually, we are really deep tech for this, because it takes a lot of time. And it's gonna take, I'm always saying, I'm not gonna tell you it works super well until 10 years, 15 years. But still, we already have like very good results, particularly on highly degraded sites in French Guiana, where like our technology brought, the main stuff that our technology brought is like a good focus on the soil and the soil restoration, way more biodiversity, in the restoration that has been done. And with our monitoring tool, a lot of transparency. We facilitate communications between stakeholders and the follow-up, which really helps. In Brazil, we are working in ex-pasture land or ex-agricultural lands.
Yeah.
And there again, we have good results. And I think the main thing is that we are able really to plant in a diversified way, and in a smart way, because and this changed a lot. This changed a lot of things in comparison to normal practice. To be completely honest, we still have like a lot of progress to do. I mean, the solution is good. We have a lot of clients.
I mean, 3 years is not that long. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, our forest will be crazy in 10 years. So, but still, I can show results. I can show results. I have like projects that are quite emblematic, and it's very encouraging. I mean, it's already. We are very proud of what we have been doing so far. It's very impressive. But we still have a lot of things to do, of course.
Why are you working in the tropics? Is it just because of that's obviously where you get a lot more biomass, and we've also sadly been destroying a lot of it? Is that the reason?
Yeah, I think that it's of course it's one of the reasons. There's also other reasons, like my business partners are coming from French Guiana. We already have like this connection,
Yeah.
The other reason is that, for instance, in countries like Brazil, the volume of lands is massive.
Yeah.
So you have like 50 millions of hectares of land that you can restore. If you compare to France or to UK, it's nothing,
Yeah, understood. Yeah. You get bigger bang for your buck, you're saying. That's basically, I get that. Let's go through some quick things before we end. So you're a business, and we always love to have people who are doing businesses, not just for the good of the planet. So how are you making your money? What are your clients? Who's actually sort of paying you to do this?
Yes, so we are basically a reforestation as a service business model. So we are working for a large panel of clients that are in need of restoration and are not able to do it because they don't know how to do it, as they are not able to scale. They don't have like the supply chain, the technology, the knowledge, monitoring, etc. To give you like a few examples of clients, to be very concrete, we are working for mining industry, carbon project developers, very large corporates, governments, etc., etc. And basically everyone who wants to conduct a restoration project. And we say that, okay, you manage the finance, you manage the development of the project. Us, we are the technical guys, we are the science guys. We are a science-based company, nature-based company, techno-based company. And that's the idea.
What do the local people think about it? The farmers, the people, the villagers who live in it? Because that's another thing. Because it's their land, or they use that land, and I'm sure they want to see it encouraged back. But there's always a balance to it. The reason the forestry happens is because it feeds people, and that's why they do it. So how do your projects go down with local people?
I was using a little bit before the term holistic.
Yeah.
So we have an holistic approach from a natural perspective, but this obviously includes the people, because if you plant forest and ecosystem and you don't consider the people that are living around, you are completely wrong, because they're going to destroy everything because it's not useful for them. So of course, when we do our project, we integrate people. How do we do this? One thing is that we are working in close collaboration with the people who are hiring us to develop the project, to help them integrate the people. Okay, because this is not directly our role, but we have also an expertise on this. And us, how do we do in our supply chain, in our own business, in the seed supply chain? Basically, to restore at scale, you need seed at scale, native seed at scale. Who is going to manage the supply chain of seed? It's the people who are living there. And it's a good way to valorize them, to bring more revenue, to integrate them, and to valorize the forest that is already existing. So it's not only about reforestation, it's about also avoiding deforestation and valorizing existing forest. And it's the way we are integrating people. We are developing this a lot in Brazil. And we already have like hundreds of people indirectly working for us. But this is more for the future. But this is all we do.
One of the last things, and again, we mentioned it before we started, is that the whole offsetting thing is big business. And I've got a funny view about offsetting. I think sometimes it is right, and it can be done. If it's done well, it is good. But there's a huge bunch of greenwashing where people go, I'm going to pollute, but I'm going to pay someone, stick a few trees in there. You're not setting up to be an offsetting company, are you?
So no, we are working for offsetting company. So we are developing the project for them.
Right.
But our vision on this is very simple, is to say we need to restore our ecosystem. So we need financing for this. We need funding for this. And where it's going to come from, where the funding is going to come from. Of course, large corporates. So at some point, we need to find a good equilibrium, okay? So we need to reduce the level of greenwashing to go.
But we need the money, yeah, of course. But you need the money to do it in the first place.
Yeah, but in front of this, you need good projects. You need projects that are transparent, that are responsible, that valorize people, biodiversity. So we were like, all responsibilities to bring the best projects, you know? And this is what we are doing, and this is what we are working on.
Where do you hope this will go? I know you've had a bit of funding as well, which is great. And, you know, like you say, It's early days. What's your hope? Are you thinking of more countries to do it? Are you thinking of just trying to just show the progression with a couple of sites in sort of 5 years' time?
I think there's like three main elements. One element is that we have the ambition of restoring by the end of this decade up to 1 million of hectares, which is like a lot and nothing in the same time. But we also have like through this, it will be like we will be scaling, you know, at that point. So it will be very positive. The second thing is that we really have the ambition of being one of the best research center in the world on tropical, subtropical restoration. With all the impacts that can create and all the value, the scientific values that can create for everyone. And the last one is to be able to employ up to 10,000 people by the end of this decade. People who will be mainly working in the supply chain part and will be like people on the ground, you know, to really bring more value, social value, to protect the forest and not only restore it, you know. And this is really the ambition we have. And all this is also to say to many other people, come with us, you know?
Yeah.
Because this market is not, we not take it all. This market is for everyone. We absolutely need to restore. So we need to encourage that kind of behavior. And we want to say to people, it's possible. It's difficult, but it's possible. You can do it, and we need business to do it. So come on.
Allez le vert. Is that right then?
Exactly. Well done.
Do you know what? I wish you all the luck. I think it's a great podcast. It's a great story what you're doing. It's a mixture of science with kind of the real thing, which is, you know, trying to, as I said at the beginning, build on natural capital and restore some of that. So I wish you all the best with it. Bonne chance, as they say. Thanks for joining us on the podcast. If you'd like to know more, then have a look at the site Morfo, and then you'll see what they're doing. It's a really good project. Subscribe. We'll catch you soon for the next edition of the Net Hero Podcast.
You've been listening to the Net Hero Podcast with Sumit Bose from Future Net Zero. Visit our platform for all things net zero. And if you or your business is doing great things on the path to net zero and want to be featured on the podcast, email nethero@futurenetzero.com. Follow us on social media. futurenetzero.com. Better business, better planet.